Alrighty, so I figured we'd give our initial impressions on the last Season 3 character that just got added to the game, which is, of course, going to be Slayer. Now, a big thing that always gets talked about when DLC characters drop is, are they any good? Strive definitely has a history of releasing DLC characters that are a little bit lacking. I'm looking at you, Johnny and Elfelt. And to just give a quick TLDR on impressions on Slayer, I don't think that's the case with this character. I actually think he's going to be quite good. So let's talk about why that's the case. So first of all, I just like Slayer's addition in terms of like how he actually looks. I think they did a great job with his design and his stage. His stage is actually fantastic, and his character theme. Talking about how his gameplay has changed, Slayer in the past was a character that I always hated dealing with, mainly because of his BDC mechanic and how he is focused around backdashing. They moved away from that almost entirely in this iteration of Slayer. In fact, his backdash is probably the worst backdash in the game for a number of reasons, which we'll probably talk about that when we get into it. If I had to summarize Slayer in a very simple way, it's just damage. He actually might have the best and most accessible damage in the entire game. And that's crazy considering we have characters like Gold Lewis and Nagori Yuki. I think Slayer literally has the easiest access to doing, 200, 250 plus damage, and you don't even have to do long combos. You literally do like 4 moves and your opponent is just dead. I think that's kind of the name of Slayer in this game. They moved away from the BDC concepts and they just focused all of their attention into his offense and damage output. And in this version of Strive specifically, I think this version of Slayer actually works with the system mechanics very well. High health, high damage characters are kind of the name of the game in Season 3, and Slayer is pretty much the epitome of that, which is already a good look for him. A lot of the Season 3 characters, even the ones that are not super great, like Johnny and Elfo, are kind of considered like toxic character designs, and I feel like Slayer might actually be the pinnacle of that kind of design direction that Arceus has been leading into. So what's the deal with his offense? Why is it good? Why is his damage so good? Well, honestly, his offense, at least without resources, is not actually anything super crazy or anything special. He does have access to a command throw, which is very nice in this game. After you bite somebody, it inflicts the universe buff onto Slayer, so his next attack is basically a forced big counter hit. Having a command grab is just always nice, especially one that really makes the opponent second guess what they're going to do next. Outside of that, he has his Dandy Step special move, which gives him access to an unreactable high and low, as well as if he's close enough to the opponent, he can do a cross up out of it, which is very hard to react to. I believe it's 21 frame startup in total if you're doing Dandy into Pile Bunker. Most of these things really take resources though. You need to have burst or tension gauge available to make them work. But the thing is, his basic offense, even though it's not anything super crazy without resources, there's just so much reward behind it that you are terrified as a defender anyways. And when he does get access to things like Wild Assault or Roman cancels, all of his mix-ups become so potent and they do so much damage. I think he's actually one of the best users of Blue Wild Assault. The post-Guard Crush situation for Slayer, especially if he has the universe buff up or if he has tension available, he can do so much damage so easily from this situation that spending the burst gauge for just one mix-up is actually worth it, because he literally does nearly 300 damage from the mix-up. So he's a one-chance character, and his offense, especially with meter, really kind of goes along with that in a very, very serious way. Dead on Time is a really strong super. It works from literally the entire screen away. It's very fast for what type of super it is. It's actually technically a bad reversal super because it's 14 frames. But for a super that goes that far, being 14 frames is actually really good, and the fact that it's invincible. It has a clean hit property that makes it do, I believe, 200 damage, which is absurd for a super to be able to do. And of course, he has Last Horizon as well, which is the 100 meter super. Currently, people aren't using this one too much, but I do believe as we get the game flow of Slayer down a little bit more, and people start optimizing positive bonus sequences specifically, you're going to be seeing this super a lot. The big advantage to Slayer in this version of the game is that, as most people know, the resource economy in this version is pretty messed up. And one of the best things you can have as a character is ways to work around your opponent, be able to burst your combos. Slayer does very short, high damage combos, which is good for locking your opponent's burst gauge or just, not actually generating them that much burst in the first place. As well as the fact that Pile Bunker actually instantly wall sticks the opponent, which is very nice for being able to quickly root into something that is not burstable. That, on top of the fact that his supers do so much damage, it's very easy for him to do just short combos that absolutely obliterate the opponent. And then he himself is a high health character. I believe he actually is almost identical to No Blood Nago in terms of his overall health pool, which is very, very valuable in this game where you get a lot of burst gauge for getting hit. Slayer gets a lot of chances and he only needs one chance. And that is pretty much the name of the game for many of the top tiers like Nago and Gold Boots. His neutral is a bit unorthodox. He has some pretty good buttons. His far slash is basically Soul far slash too. It's a little bit more susceptible to low profile moves. Notably, Slayer does not have a normal dash. He has a step dash just like Johnny does. It has no invincibility like it did previously. So it kind of makes his neutral a bit awkward. But with good buttons like Far Slash, his 2H is a really, really effective low crush, as well as some very degenerate special moves like Mappa Punch, giving him nice ways to kind of skip the neutral. It's unorthodox, but it's effective enough, and even in the matchups that might be kind of rough for him in neutral, his reward is so good and so threatening that I don't think it really matters. Basically, what it boils down to is, as a character like this, you can only be so bad when you can win neutral once and just win the game off one more interaction. And it's not even like his neutral is bad, it's just unorthodox. The only problem with the character I really have that is kind of a notable weakness for him is that his defense is not great. He does have good mashing normals. His 2P is a great 5-frame normal. His 2K is a great 6-frame normal, which with a lot of range on it, and it pretty much always converts into something. But his backdash is terrible. As I mentioned earlier, his backdash has a problem where his character model doesn't actually move back before the invul wears off. So a lot of times, moves just end up tagging him anyways, because he doesn't move backwards like other characters do. And the follow-up out of his backdash, they gave him Hand of Doom, which is kind of supposed to be the BDC replacement. It also doesn't actually have invincibility, and in fact, it will just remove the invincibility from your backdash. So I don't think it's very useful, and most moves recover in time to block it anyways, and it is punishable on block. That, and he's not very good in the air, so things like fuzzy jumping and such aren't very good for him either. It's kind of a problem. But that's kind of it. That's really the only problem I have with him. I can see some matchups developing to be kind of problematic for him, as I said, and he is a bit of a basic linear character, so it's possible that as people get more comfortable with him, some of his tactics might fall off a little bit. But I think the character's reward and offense is just too potent to where I really can't see a world where he's not at least somewhere around that high tier. I currently think he's probably better than a character than like Abba, for example. I think he has a lot of potency in what he can do. I'll also say, as someone who does not like Slayer, I spent some time playing him myself. I gotta admit, he's actually pretty fun to play. And this character is just pure dopamine. You just do things. You watch your opponent's health bar just evaporate. You don't really care about the consequences of your actions because you have so much health. You just have a fun time playing this character. So I do have to admit, I think they did a good job in implementing Slayer into Guilty Gear Strive. Of course, I do want to know what you guys over on YouTube think of the character. Let me know in the comments below. Are you having fun with him? Do you think he's good? Do you think maybe he'll fall off a little bit in the future? Let me know down below. While you're down there, consider subscribing and dropping a like on the channel. I'd really appreciate it as I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel. Likes and comments really help the YouTube algorithm, so I'd appreciate that as well. Anyway, thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.